time. Yeah, this is tea time. Yeah, making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. So be sure to grab your tea, grab a seat, and tune in to Miss Liz. Tea time. Making a difference. One cup at a time. Tea time. Tea time.
Well, good afternoon. That's right. It is afternoon tea time now. We were here this morning, but now we're here in the afternoon. So good afternoon, good evening, and good morning, wherever you may be tuning in from. So now we are doing round 2 of tea time today on this beautiful day in August. So let's do the disclaimer and let's do a little bit of the intro of the incredible guest that we have in this back studio. I'll get him to join us in a few seconds, and we will sit back and spill some good old tea on overcoming life. Disclaimer for Miss Liz's Tea Times live shows. I'm Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard.com and StreamYard. Here we go again. We're spilled the tea. Here we go. Miss Liz is going live using StreamYard. Before leaving a comment, please grant StreamYard permission to see your name at StreamYard.com. Please be advised that the content brought forward for any Tea Time show hosted by myself, Miss Liz, is always brought forward in good faith, however, may bring forth dialogue and opinions that are not representative of my platform. The facts and information are perceived to be accurate at the given time of airing. All Tea Time guests and audience participations are responsible for using their good judgment in taking any action that may relate to the discussion. The content brought forward may include discussions for some where they may be emotionally at risk. It is significant to know that this show is engaging in discussion form only to offer and inspire awareness and connection and is not providing therapeutical advice. If you have any questions about the disclaimer or the panelist discussion, you may freely contact me, Miss Liz, at bookingmissliz@gmail.com. Moving forward, should you choose to voluntarily participate in this show in any aspect, I, Miss Liz, welcomes you. And should you decide that this show is not made for you at this time, I respect your wishes and will see you at a future show at a later date. Now, we got the disclaimer out of the way. We got the tea spilled already. We got the little tongue twisters going. Now, I'm going to bring in the incredible guest that I have. I have Steve Borys here joining me from the United States, and he is a coach, teacher, and author. So a little bit on Steve Borys, and then I will have him jump into the studio and share his story with us. Steve grew up in Sayville, New York, on the east end of Long Island. He attended Fordham University, where he learned a BA in history and an MAT in social studies. At Fordham, he played football and was a team captain 2 times All-Patriot League and an honourable mention All-American. He's also going to be talking about his book that he wrote today, and I'll get him to share that a little bit later in the show, but let's get him into the studio with us. Hi, Steve. It is an honor to have you here with us today.
Oh, the feeling's the same. Thank you so much for having me, Miss Liz. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.
And as you've seen, Steve, Miss Liz spills the tea, makes a mess, and slips the tongue twisters. I am telling you, my tongue sometimes it just turns all over. So, Steve, how did it all begin? And let's start right from the beginning and carry on. And then we'll get to know your TEA later in the show.
Sure. So why I wrote the book, it was in the pandemic, and my family was struggling, with the stress of the whole situation, and we were dealing with depression and everything that went along with those dark days. And also, we were seeing a lot of the dismay on social media. And, and there was fighting and arguing that I never really saw before. People who had loved each other for decades were now going after each other. And I wrote this book as a way to try to find some peace and try to give people some hope and try to bring some folks back together and just try to fight the disunity.
So how did you get the title of the book, and what is the title of the book? Because I didn't mention that, and I'm so sorry for that.
Oh, it's okay. The book is called How to Beat Stalin, Hitler, and the Southern State Parkway. Southern State Parkway is out on the east end of Long Island. And, and the whole book and the whole title is how to overcome adversity, how to fight back, and how to have ultimately a nice life. And the book, the title starts to make sense once you start getting into the book. We begin the story with me, as a young child. I was born in the Bronx, New York, and right away we moved out to the east end of Long Island. Me, my mom, my dad, and my sister. We did that to get away from the inner city. One thing, the Bronx at that time was on fire back in the 70s. So, escaping flame, always a good idea. And, we sort of lived the idyllic life, the American dream. We had a quarter-acre house, a white picket fence, the whole spiel, until I was about 5. And my father was killed in a car wreck on the Southern State Parkway.
Oh, wow.
And, that was my big challenge in life, was how to deal with my father's death. And that was the challenge of our whole family, my mother, my sister, and quickly, things started spiraling downwards for me. By the time I was in middle school, I was literally staring into the abyss. I was learning disabled. I couldn't spell cat if you bought me a vowel. Struggled mightily and was being bullied mercilessly. I was overweight. I was taking a beating every day. Sometimes teachers, would get in on the act. And I just had no hope for a better tomorrow. And my mom could see the danger. She saw how much pain I was in. And, she was always very encouraging. Your mom's always encouraged, oh, you're beautiful, you're smart, everything's going to be great. But you don't believe your mom because she's crazy. And, and she saw that she wasn't making a dent. So she said, hey, you know what? You're not the only person in this family who's had adversity in life. And I said, okay, well, who are you talking about here, Ma? And she said, well, it's time you knew about your babcia, your babcia Eva. And babcia is the Ukrainian word for grandmother. My father was Ukrainian. And he goes, I want to tell you about your babcia Eva. And I said, okay, I never knew my babcia. She, in fact, died in the same car accident as my father. I only knew her as the nice lady who made apple strudel, right? As a chubby kid, that's how you identify people, by what pastry they bring to the house.
The yummy stuff.
It was delicious. And I said, okay, well, tell me about babcia Eva. I knew nothing about her. And she says, well, when she was your age, she wasn't worried about being obese. She was actually worried about starving to death. And that got my attention. So what are you talking about? She said, well, when she was a kid growing up in the Ukraine, she and her family were victims of Stalin's Holodomor. Stalin was, of course, the dictator of the Soviet Union, and he wanted to make the Ukrainians submit to communism and submit to his collectivist farms. In order to do that, he starved them out, and about 4 million people starved to death. They literally took all the food out of the country. They surrounded the country with the Red Army, so if anybody tried to escape, they'd be shot. And millions died. Millions died, and my grandmother was in the middle of this. So, oh, my God. And, I'm really taken aback by this. And then she said, and once that was over, a few years later came the Great Terror, where Stalin instituted another purge of the Ukrainian people and other folks in Eastern Europe. And hundreds of thousands, if not millions of more people died. And once that was over, when they were finally getting back on their feet and trying to find a new normal, Hitler was now master of Germany. And in 1941, he begins what was known as Operation Barbarossa, and it was the invasion of the Soviet Union. And it's the largest land battle in the history of the world. And there's babcia on the front line. And very quickly into that, her village is captured, her entire family's murdered, and she's made a slave. She's brought to work in one of Hitler's concentration camps. And I'm just absolutely floored by this. I can't believe what my mother's telling me. And I said to her, how in the world did Babsha survive this? How could you, by yourself, no family, no nothing, a slave? It's hard for us to think about that. One of our relatives was a slave, and she said, "Well, your Babsha, she had a superpower." I said, "Superpower? What was her superpower?" She says that your Babsha believed that she always, no matter how bad things were, she was in control of her reaction to the situation. That was her power. And no matter how bad things got, no matter how many people in her life died or how hopeless the situation was, she was going to fight on. And she was one day going to resurrect the Borys family. She was not going to let these evil dictators wipe us from history. She was going to hold on. She was going to outlast them and bring us all back. And sure enough, one day Hitler commits suicide. World War II's over, and she's free. She's free. At that point, she had my father. My father was born into slavery. She had met a great man in the camp, Eustace, and they began a wonderful love affair. And she's free now. And she's starting to rebuild the Borys family. She has another son. And they're making it work. They're recovering. They're still in the bloodlands of Europe, but they're inching forward until one day, a knock on the door, and there was a soldier, American soldier, came to the door, and they were selling bathtub wine out of, to make some extra money. And they were out of wine. The soldier got angry. He fought with my grandfather and shot him dead in the front door. And my Babsha is now single mother, murdered husband, 2 kids. Somehow gets them on a boat across the Atlantic. They land in Philadelphia. Their first night in America, they're homeless. They're penniless. They had to sleep on a park bench. They couldn't speak the language. But my Babsha always felt that this was a good start. Because now, even though, for me, I would be absolutely, demoralized, crushed by this. But for her, she had a chance. And a chance was all she needed. And over the next few decades, she built back the Borys family. And by the time of her death, she had remarried. She owned her own house. She had a small business. And she got to meet 4 grandkids.
Wow.
And that's how she beat Stalin and Hitler.
And it makes sense where the title comes from, right, for the book.
Right.
Because I was like, how did he get this title? But as you're sharing this story, Steve, I'm understanding a lot, and we have a lot in common with history, because my 4-time great grandmother is from Germany, and she was part of Hitler as well. So when you first sent me the book, I was like, oh, where's this going? Like, how is this? But I'm glad that you're sharing this with the listeners and the viewers out there, because then they can understand the title of the book, right? Because some of the words might be like, oh, I'm not sure if I want to read this. Like, what is this about, right? So, and this is what we do, is by sharing our stories and that, and giving awareness of what the book and what entitles in the book. It will give people the opportunity to go and grab a copy. So if you'd like to grab a copy, the links are, I'm posting the links as we're having our conversation and that. But carry on. I'm sitting here and I'm listening to your story, and I'm truly blown away by the adversity of the family, and and continuing the growth and getting over hardships, right? Because that's what we have to do. So continue on, Steve. I'm just taking some notes, and I'm just going to keep pushing up some links, and any questions that come in, if any of the viewers or listeners out there that would like to ask any questions, please put them in the comments, and I'll pull them up as we're having tea today with Steve. And if you're watching a replay, please push #replay where you're tuning in from, so I can thank you for where you're tuning in to. And I'll let Steve take the floor again and continue on with his story.
Great, thank you. And she was faced with 2 of the most evil dictators in human history. These people responsible for the deaths of countless millions. And she stood up to them because she controlled her reaction. She, even if she too was eventually going to be killed, she was going to die fighting. And of course, the best revenge is having a good life. And I hear this story and I realize, I'm part of this legacy, okay? That here I am, 12, 13 years old, hopeless, suffering my own pain. But it gave me a spark of motivation, right? If she could overcome this, if she can come out of the bloodlands of Europe and go toe to toe with two evil dictators and win, which were real. I had real problems. Maybe I had some hope. Maybe I too could use her superpower and control my reaction to these situations. And also I was on the hook because if I didn't have a nice life, that would mean Hitler and Stalin win. Right? That's what she fought for, was so that we could go on and have nice things. I don't have to become president. I don't have to, but just to be a good, decent person. Right? Okay. To be a productive, loving, caring man. And boy, I had no idea how. Right? It's great to hear this rah-rah story, right? Well, how do you actualize it? How do you make something of it? And I looked around, I had no clue. And that's when my mom at that propitious moment said, you got to go play some football. And she pushed me towards football, not because she liked the violence or the tackling, because she knew the men and she knew what sports were all about. That the program where I grew up was, yes, they wanted to win, and all football coaches want to win. They want to build character. They want to turn young boys into great men. And the slogan of our team, teams always like to have, was Brothers Forever. And, it wasn't just something catchy you put on a T-shirt. It was real. And I saw it right away. The first day of practice, they make us run a big warm-up lap around the perimeter of school. And I was a chubby kid. I could barely get halfway around. I'm dry heaving. I got Twinkies falling out of my pocket. It was a catastrophe. And I think, okay, this is it, And the captain of the team, this kid Jason, came and he finished his lap real quick and he came back and got me. And he basically dragged me across the finish line. He said, listen, you're not going to quit. We're all in this together. And I still remember that to this day. And then the next day in school, instead of being bullied and humiliated, I hear, hi, Steve. I look around. Oh, is there another Steve standing next to me? It was the guys on the team, now, hey, you're one of us. You're part of the family. And that's what the program provided, was a family. And I remember being called into the office by the coach. This is it, and I was the worst football player probably in the history of the program at this point. They're going to cut me. And I said, sorry, coach, it's okay. You can cut me. He goes, we're not going to cut you. We don't cut anybody here. I wanted to tell you, keep trying. You're doing great. You're getting better. Okay. And we're happy you're part of the family. And it was just that little bit of kindness that gave me so much. It gave me so much hope that, the security, happiness, something I really don't think I ever knew or understood before. And it got me hooked, and basically saved my life. It was also in the classroom. My mom got me tested, and surprise, surprise, I was learning disabled. And I got a resource room teacher, a special educator, would work with me. And Mrs. Dudick, I'll never forget her. She was about 5 foot tall, about 100 pounds. I'm 6'3", and she would get up on a chair and scream in my face, and pull my ear, and, was tough on me, but got me to do my work. And most importantly, she taught me how to learn. And I just want you to think about this. She taught me how to learn. And that was probably the greatest gift anybody's ever given me, that ability, or that they'll give me strategies, right? And my mom, being crazy, as I said she was, she started saying, okay, great, you're playing football, you're getting a little bit better at school. We're going to get you to a college. You're going to go to a great school. You're going to get a football scholarship. You're going to meet a great woman, a great girl, and get married, and you're going to live happily ever after. What are you talking about? And if anybody heard these conversations, we'd have these conversations every night at midnight. We were both insomniacs, we'd just sit up at night chatting. It'd be preposterous. You're out of your mind. How in the world? I was the exact opposite of everything she said, but she believed. And her believing got me to believe. And then she surrounded me with people who gave me the skills, the coaches, the teachers, And as the years went by the time I was in my junior year, I wasn't the fat kid flunking out anymore. I was the captain of the team. I was getting good grades, and all the stuff that she said was coming true. And nobody could believe it. And one day in class, my junior year, there's a knock on the door, and it's the principal. And he comes to the door and wanted to see me. Now, most kids would get nervous if the principal came, right? You got caught smoking in the bathroom or something.
Yeah.
Today they'd be vaping, but I wasn't one of those. I got excited because if you were an athlete and the principal was there, that meant there was probably a college scout in the office. This was the rite of passage. I was like, wow, we did it. The college scout, it's all coming together. I go skipping out of the classroom, go with the principal down to the office, giggling to myself like an idiot. Excuse me, too much tea. And then we get to the office, and he sits me down. He said, Steve, I'm sorry. There's no college scout. In fact, there was a terrible accident. Your mom's dead.
Oh.
And just like that, in that moment, I'm right back at the abyss. Right back at the abyss. And, I had no idea what to do. I didn't know whether, go crawl into a bottle, crawl into a ditch, I had no idea. And I was, mama's boy, big time. And I was not prepared to be on my own. Me and my sister, we were not prepared at all to be on our own. And that's when, we saw the power of community. The coaches and teachers, the friends and neighbors all came and saved my life. They got me across that last bit of the finish line. Anytime I was thinking about just giving up or quitting, they were all right there for me. In ways great and small, seen and unseen. I remember going back to school after the funeral. My chemistry teacher, Miss Buckmaster, she says, come on in after school. We're going to do all the work together. She stayed with me till like 5 o'clock at night. Chemistry, I was terrible at chemistry. I was always like myself on fire with the Bunsen burner. And she got me through all the labs. And then as I'm leaving, she goes, hey, come here. Here's $20. What's this? She goes, take your sister out to a movie. And it's like, I still remember it because that changed my life. It gave me hope for a better tomorrow. That somebody gives a damn, right?
Yep.
And, I had a girl I was friends with. I didn't have a car. I had to take a driving test. Her mom gave me the car to take the driving test. Of course, I crashed the car, so I kind of backfired on them, so you got to be careful. But, the whole community came together and rallied. And, I was able to graduate high school, got a scholarship to go play at Fordham. And, met my wife there, my Amy, we have a family now, and have a nice life. Had a nice life. Just like my Babcia Eva wanted me to have when she dragged herself out of the bloodlands of Europe, and inspired me, to keep going. When I didn't have to fight Stalin and Hitler, but I had some other stuff. I had some other obstacles in the way. That's what all of us, that's what the book's all about. Your obstacle could be alcoholism, right? It could be a divorce. Maybe you lost, maybe it's COVID, right? You lost something in COVID. They're all real, they could be historic like a Stalin and Hitler. It could be sneaky, right? Maybe like having too much sugar and you get diabetic. It can all doom you if you let it, and you always control your choice how you're going to respond to these situations, right?
Yeah.
But you need help. You need that community there. You need that love.
Well, that's one thing that I'm getting as you're sharing your story, Steve, is that just the kindness, went a long way for you. It actually pushed you and made you move forward. So many times we think kindness doesn't have so much impact, but it actually does change a person's life, when someone actually does give a damn and we can move forward, like you said, just some teachers taking that extra time tutoring you and pushing you and getting the community coming together and pushing you through the finish line. We all need community. We need a village. Like, we can't do this alone. And it's like you said, Steve, like, there's so many things out there: alcoholism, passing, grief, divorce. There's so many things, right, that we have to all overcome. So if anybody would like to reach out to you, Steve, like, how would they find this book and where can they find this book?
Sure. The easiest place to get on Amazon, and you could Google my name or how to beat Stalin, Hitler in the Southern State Parkway. And, you could be reading it on your Kindle in seconds. And you can order the hard copy and Blockbuster. Amazon's really good at getting that.
Who knows? It might be Blockbuster.
Flashing back to my childhood. Right? I got back into the 80s and 90s somehow right there. But yeah, you can pick it up real there. And all my, you were so kind as to put all my social media links up there, and you can get me, and I'll get back to you lickety split, and you can have a nice chat.
So I think now's a good time to ask you, what would your T be if I gave you the letter TEA, Steve?
My T, teamwork. That's what got me across. That's what saved my life. And on the field, and we learned that in sports, right? And that's something I figured out pretty quick, is the lessons you learn on a field, whether the sport is. For me, it was football. It's just the simulation for life. And, that's why we want to get kids into sports, is so that we can teach them life skills. It's fun. Hey, I scored a touchdown or whatever, but, we're teaching you how to be a great man, a great woman, a great person. And you apply that to business, like you're doing this great job. I'm sure you have a whole support staff helping you out, and other people. Nobody ever does anything by themselves.
Well, I'm a one-woman team at this moment.
Oh, good. Okay, God bless you. But
yeah, I do everything. I'm a one-woman team. I am looking for a team, so if anybody wants to help, Miss Liz, they are more than welcome to, because it is a heavy load.
We'll sign you. We'll sign some folks up for it. My daughter was never into sports at all. I coached her in softball in third grade, and that was a catastrophe. She revolted and led an insurrection, and they wanted to make mud pies instead of hit balls. So that's a whole nother story. And she got into theater, and watching her perform, and it's the same thing. It's the same concept. You have people with different skills combining different talents. One person's doing the lights, the other person's dancing, and support people, all coming together to create something that they could not create on their own, and learning valuable life skills along the way. And also providing that family, of support and love and community. And I think that's the key is, and that's what I want to do, not just with kids, in school. I'm a teacher, I'm a coach, so we keep that going. But, with adults as well, and bringing adults in and finding community for adults, especially for men of my age. We're finding we're a particular risk for suicide. The statistics are quite alarming because we feel very isolated. Mm-hmm. You're supposed to be stoic on your own and not show any weakness, and suck it up, buttercup, and all this. That's just not a healthy way to get through life, and it's unnatural. It's unnatural, and you struggle, and you don't feel like you can talk to anybody, and maybe go see a psychiatrist. But even that's what I was finding. It's just hard to find professionals to help. There's wait lists, and then is the person any good, or even if they're good, is it a good? It's just can be quite a daunting challenge, And I think a lot of times we just need each other.
Yeah.
We need each other. We need to find purpose. Why am I getting up in the morning? Try to find something like my coach when I was 12, who gave me that little bit of love and support that propelled me. We still need that as a 48-year-old, 47-year-old.
Yeah.
we need that community around us that gives us purpose, that gets us out of bed in the morning. Other than, well, I got to go pay some bills. I tragically lost one of my best friends early last year. He committed suicide. A great man, brilliant man, but just couldn't get back from the abyss. Just didn't see a purpose. Just was tired. He was just paying bills, and he didn't find the joy in it. He didn't find his why. Or he forgot his why.
Mm-hmm.
And it was too late. We couldn't, and it didn't have to be that way. It didn't have to be that way. So that's my goal. That's what I'm trying to do with my teaching, with my coaching. That's why I wrote this book. It's to try to remind people that, we got more in common than we don't.
Yep.
A lot of the difference, especially when you're on social media, the differences, that you see my side versus your side, and a bunch of crap.
Well, the different perspectives, right? You see a 6, I see a 9. Doesn't mean either one of us is wrong. It just means we see different way, right?
And at the core of it, especially we all want to be loved. We all want to have great family. We all want to be a part of something special. We want to be appreciated. We want to be respected. And that's not values confined to one group or another.
Yeah.
And we can disagree about things. We should.
Yeah, we should. If we're not disagreeing, I kind of like, if everyone's just agreeing, saying, yeah, that's good. There's no room for growth. There's no room for feedback. There's no room to see where you're making a mistake to improve yourself. If everyone's just patting you on the back and saying, good. I like when people tell me, Miss Liz, you can fix it this way. And I'm like, okay, let me try it.
Yeah. I mean, we have different, as a teacher, I have different economic interests than, say, a business person, or somebody running an oil company, or somebody running, telecommunications, or, doesn't mean my interests are wrong. They pertain to me.
Mm-hmm.
But we have to respect the other and try to empathize, to, put each other in each other's shoes. And after a spirited argument, hey, let's go have a Pepsi. Or maybe Pepsi or something, because we all have kids, and we want to take care of them, and we have family, and we all want the same thing ultimately, and hopefully this can remind people, also it's also there to show the dangers of extremism.
Yeah.
Stalin was extreme left communism that led to death and slavery of countless millions. And Hitler was extreme right, Nazi fascism. Well, that led to death and slavery of millions. So what does that tell you? You go extreme either way, it's the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's our demise. And we've always been very successful when we're kind of in the middle.
Yeah.
And we realize our humanity. And we realize the answer is always love.
Yeah. So you gave me the word teamwork for your letter T. So what would you give me for E and A?
E, I would give empathy, right? Where we want to, try to see things from the other person's perspective. Not to take on their pain. But to say, okay, I understand why you're feeling that, and not just react, not just lash out and label, but why is this person doing this? As a teacher, sometimes I'll say, hey, pick out your pencil, and they go, go to hell, and they start yelling at me, mother. Okay, well, obviously, I can give detention, and because I could say, okay, well, why is that happening?
Yeah.
What happened? Maybe that kid had a rough morning, this, that, and the other thing, God knows, get to the bottom of it. Try to figure out why that person's acting that way. And, when you do that, you can have some great breakthroughs, that can lead to that person, being healed in some way because somebody's finally listened. Instead of attacking and punishing and telling them that they're bad, taking a moment to understand why.
Yeah.
And listening.
people don't realize how far empathy really goes, when someone really actually listens and does give a damn, again, with the kindness, somebody actually caring, how far it actually goes. And as you were sharing earlier, when you shared the word teamwork, I was listening to how you were sharing and I was like, I'm sure he's going to say empathy. I'm sure it's going to be empathy for the E. And then when you said it, I was like, I should have just wrote it down.
Absolutely. I'm telegraphing myself here, but that's good.
And what would your A be, Steve?
A, in this case, it would have to be my wonderful wife, Amy, who is, without her, I'd be like naked in a tree somewhere. I don't think I could, she's just my everything. And we met in college and got married shortly after. We have our wonderful children together. And, we've had our ups and downs and highs and lows. And, we've been to the edge and back. But we always realize, we're in this together.
Yeah.
And, when at the end of the day, we have each other's back. And we realize, ultimately what's important. And again, it comes back to love. And when you have somebody who loves you unconditionally, doesn't mean you're not going to get yelled at.
Yeah. But, a little bit of loud yelling sometimes actually gets the attention, right? Because sometimes we need that.
Right. I don't want anybody to think I get this, fairy tale and birds are, the whole thing. But, and that's important, though, because, hey, you can fight. You can disagree, like we were talking about before. You can disagree. You can have a different perspective on things. But you come back and you realize, hey, it's about love. It's about family. We have much more in common than we don't. And let's figure out a way how we can make things better. And when you do try, it goes back to empathy, right? And teamwork. That's what people don't realize. Family is teamwork.
Exactly.
When you get married, love and all the, the fantasy and, the movie. Yeah. Okay. You're not saying I don't love my wife and but it's about being a team.
Yeah.
And it's about getting the job done and taking care of the kids, and having a plan and
being human.
Yeah. And you're going to make mistakes. Okay. Picking up, okay, you screw something like in coaching football, somebody drops a pass. Well, do I go and yell at the kid and call him a loser? Or do I say, hey, it's okay, get him next time?
Yeah.
So I screw up as a husband. You left this toilet seat up again. You forgot that. Yeah. Okay. You're going to divorce me, throw me out in the gutter, or, hey, yeah. Of course, my duty is to fix it, right? But it's, we just don't bury me in the process. And realize I still do have value. I'm still a human being.
Well, and I think that's what everyone has to understand, right? Is we all have our issues. We all have gone over something, and that's what makes us uniquely different is we all have our own stories, and I love that you kept bringing up the word family, because when I asked you one word that describes you as a person, you gave me the word family, and it shows that you're really family oriented man, because you keep saying the empathy, the teamwork, your wife, Amy, and it is truly a strong team because you're serving your tea each and every day, the teamwork of the family, the empathy of the family and your wife as well, so you have a really strong cup of tea there, Steve, that you're serving. And I really appreciate you sharing your tea. And that's what it is. We all have our own teas. We serve our own teas and our own flavors and blends at certain times, right?
Yes.
So you mentioned in your bio, I mentioned that you are a coach, a teacher, and an author. So what have those three things taught you in life about yourself, Steve?
Oh, let's see. That I'm a flawed person, and and I want to try to keep getting better. I want to keep learning from my mistakes. I want to keep falling forward, and that the best way to get through this life is to try to be to try to serve and to try to give back. The reason I became a teacher and a coach, it's fun, but it's to try to give back and try to pay forward, and thank all the wonderful people who got me to where I am. That's why I wrote the book. It's this in many ways a horrible story, but I wanted to try to use it as a way to try to help people. So maybe somebody could read about my babcha, who's struggling and say, oh, if babcha Eva could do it, maybe I can too, or hear about my sister, there's a whole bunch about my sister, other wonderful characters, Herm, there's a lot more. There's a lot more characters in there who have inspired me and can inspire others, and that's the hope, that's the goal. Speaking of the characters, like, my babcha and my mom, especially, those are the two big ones. My mom, first and foremost. We're getting to a point, babcha has been dead since 80, so was it over 40 years, and my mom died in 91. And we're kind of getting to a point where nobody remembers them. The people who know them are passing away, and it's rare that I get to speak to somebody who actually knew my mother. Nobody knew my babcha Eva. And, there's the old expression, you die twice. You're deaf, and then when nobody remembers you anymore.
Yeah.
And that's what I was getting, upset about, was they were about to die, that second death. But now, thanks to this book, as long as this book's around and there's a copy somewhere, they're going to live forever. And,
well, that's it, right? You're leaving a legacy of the story so that they don't pass again.
They can come back, and that was the other thing. I was thinking I'm getting choked up here a little bit, with the pandemic.
That's okay. You're allowed to cry on tea time.
If I could summon back, somebody to help. Heroes, it would be those folks, some of the others in the book. And it's just great that, I've had feedback, people who've read it, friends, people I haven't known, strangers, that's when it really hits you, when the stranger comes. Says, your mom is my hero. babcha Eva is my hero. I want to be like them. And I was able to help, use their story, so they're helping people that they never even knew of, from beyond the grave. And, that's what I wanted to try to do.
Well, it truly impacts
help one person,
people, right?
Then great. If you could help 1 million, even better.
Well, and that's it, right? We write these stories, the hard pains, the hard stories, in order to impact other people's lives. Because when they read that story, they say, oh my God, my life is not as hard as I think it is. If this person could have overcome all of this, I can too. You give them that hope and that inspiration to carry on and move forward by sharing these stories. I truly understand where you're coming from, because I myself have shared my personal story. And my message to everyone is, when I'm gone, just remember how hard I fought. Remember how hard I continued to push through the pain and the challenges, And I think that's what you've given that legacy to your babcha and your mom, And thank you, Steve, for being real, raw, and authentic. This platform, that's what it's for. There's no judgment, and we do overcome things, and we are human. So you serve a strong tea. You're really family oriented. Your word is family, I also asked you what your favorite color was, and you gave me the color blue. Could you tell me why you picked blue?
Blue? Because right now that's the colors of our football team.
Oh, okay. I would have never guessed that. Like that threw me right off. Okay.
No. Yeah, that's when I think about colors, I always think about, that's the first thing that always jumps out to me, the football jersey, and I've had a lot of colors over the years. And I was at Sleepy Hollow, I coached there. We were red, and we had the beautiful horseshoes. I had this horseman that was great, and other teams, purple. When I was at Sayville at Fordham, and we were the maroon. But that's your colors, and you fight for your colors, and you protect your colors, and you're loyal to your colors. And the colors are a symbol of your family, that you work with, that you love with, you bleed with, you fight with, and ultimately victorious with.
So I would have never guessed football, like the colors of your football team when you gave me blue. And that's what it is, right? We all have our own favorite colors for different reasons. Again, like the one word that describes us, who we are as an individual. It's our different teas, our different settings, our different flavors and blends that we offer and serve. And Steve, you've actually paid respects to a lot of people who have impacted your life. If you could give a big thank you to anyone who's still living out there and will listen to this show today or the replay, because you can watch this at any time after the live show, who would you like to give a thank you to?
Yeah, sure. I already thanked my wife, Amy. I'd like to thank also my children and my wife's whole family, Rich and Laura Bubico, Aunt Jackie, Rich, Liz, Don, Brooke, and all the grandkids and nieces and nephews and uncles and all these wonderful people that make up my life now.
Well, we're not trying to give your age away. You mentioned grandkids.
And I don't have grandkids yet.
Not yet?
No.
So what message would you like to give to the youths out there that are into football? Because you are a football coach and you've been with the football teams and all that. What message would you have for all of the youths out there that want to get into football or in football?
Sure. Some people are worried about the violence and of the game. And it's certainly not for everybody, and that's okay. But to me, it's the greatest game, because on any play, 11 people have to work together in order for something to work. And it's kind of the closest simulation you can get to society, that we all have to get together, work. We have to be pulling in the same direction. Everybody's important. Everybody has a role. Everybody has value, and if you play, even if you're on the bench, you still have value. And you'll be joining a great family. And when football's done right, it's one of the greatest experiences in the world.
So why is there 11 people on a football team?
I don't know. It was one of the rules they came up with over the years. We could do a whole nother show about the history of the game, and how it evolved and how Teddy Roosevelt got involved 100 years ago. And, I guess that sounded like a good number proportional to the width of the field.
I'm learning a lot about football because I had a past guest that was on Teatime as well for foreign language, Jim Curtis, and he had tried to teach me about football. So I'm learning a little bit more and more every time I have a guest on and speaking about football. For me, it was, I just like football because of the team, like the team spirit. I really like the team spirit with football over all of the other sports. Like I find that football has a very strong unity. And I don't know if it's because of the tackling or the connect, the hard connect. I'm not sure what it is, but I find that football for me, when I watch it, it's the unity, the joining, the connection, all the team huddling together. You don't see that with hockey or baseball. Well, you do at the beginning, but during the whole game, you see this connection. You see the unity of the team, You have everyone running for this one ball, So, yeah, football means a lot to me. And I just like the uniforms, and I like the cheerleaders. I kind of like the whole celebration kind of aspect of football. So
yeah, it's a community event. One thing to just give you another lesson about what also makes it special to me. I played for many years. I never touched the ball. I was a lineman, and most people on the field, 5 of the 11 will never touch the ball. Unless there's a fumble or something weird happens. Yeah. The linemen and that's, to me, one of the best parts. It's about the selflessness of it, where you're going to, literally get your body in the way of other large people to protect your teammates, to protect your brother. And our great coach, this man named John DeLuca, who's another one of my angels, actually came up with a lineman's prayer. It's non-denominational, so I don't think you're converting to a religion. But it goes, we work the hardest, we're known the least, but who cares? We are the reason.
Oh, I like that.
So without your blocking and protection, your team can never win. The guys who scored a touchdown, that's never going to happen without you.
Yeah.
And I just love the practice. We're just working with all your friends, your teammates, for a common goal. You never touch the ball, but when you do score, when your team does, it's the greatest feeling in the world, and that's like society. Some people look down at teachers and cops and firemen and think, oh, you guys are losers. No, we're kind of like the linemen. Without the work of the people in that role, does anything ever get done? Or your construction, just because.
Well, there's always that judgment, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what field you're in. There's always somebody that has something negative to say about it.
Right. And that's the thing. Don't judge. Everybody has their worth, their value, and without everybody working together, doing their job, it's just not going to work.
Well, it's teamwork, right? There goes right back to the T, is the teamwork. Without the team, I'm a one-woman team, but my teammates are my guests. My teammates are my viewers and my listeners. I'm not doing this alone. I can't do it alone. And it's like you said, you can't do anything alone. You need a team. I just have a different sort of team, and that's why I am very appreciative and supportive of all of my guests and all of my viewers and listeners at any time, whether you watched live or you watched the replay. I really appreciate you tuning in and supporting, because you are my team. You are the one is encouraging me to push through, picking me up and taking me to the finish line. Like the community had done to you, Steve, has picked you up and brought you to the finish line, So you being a guest here today, you've actually helped me to pick me and brought me to the finish line, Absolutely,
and you have helped so many folks like myself get the message out, and you're really, and help so many people in your audience. You're really a true blessing, and doing amazing work. Just helping communities, well beyond where you live. Reaching nationwide and globally. It's an amazing gift you're giving.
All I do is spill a tea. I make a mess. My mess is good.
Excellent.
So any final words before we wrap up your tea time, and I'll share the next guest that's coming up on August 18th.
Sure. I just want everybody to understand, whatever's bad things happening to you, it's not fair. It's probably not your fault. But we can get through this together. Understand we love you. Stay in the fight. If you need help, get the help that you need. People have been through bad times before, and this too shall pass.
So before we wrap up your tea time, Steve, it just popped in my head. Are you looking to share your story on other platforms or speaking stages or anything like that?
Any way we can. I'm doing YouTube videos. I'm doing TikTok videos. I'm doing events, trying to book public speaking events, speaking of schools, speaking of organizations, whatever way I can find to try to get the message out and try to be a help.
I'm gonna connect you after the show. When we're done the live show, I'm gonna connect you with a couple people that are looking for speakers, motivational speakers like yourself, coaches and leaders and all that, and I'll direct you to those people. And I really want to thank you, Steve, for joining and sharing your story with me today. Because when you first approached me, I was like, oh, I don't know what is this story about? Like, how do I get? And sometimes you just have to listen. You just have to find out for yourself what the story is. So that's what I do. With some of my guests is when they come on Teatime, I'm learning as my listeners and viewers are learning as well. And And to reach out to Steve, you can find him on all social media platforms. Like he said, he's on TikTok. I've been following his TikTok. So give him a quick follow, and then maybe Steve, once you get that 1K, then you can do your lives on TikTok and that as well. Is there any other way that the viewers and listeners can reach out to you?
Sure. You can always reach me by email, steve.borys@gmail.com. And I'd be happy to get back to you and chat and start a relationship.
And if anybody would like a signed copy of your book, do you have some available?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Just reach out to me and we'll get that in the mail right away.
So on what platform is the best one to reach you at besides the email?
Facebook would probably be the easiest. But, you can, that would be the way to go. Reach me on Messenger there.
So awesome. Thank you so much, Steve, for sharing. It really was an honor to hear your story and have you share your teamwork, empathy, and Amy. Your tea is a really strong tea. Keep serving your tea, Steve, because you're doing wonders with it and you're making a difference. You're impacting lives as well. It just takes one person to make a difference. And like you said, Steve, kindness goes a long way. So let's just be kind. Let's start being kinder to our neighbors, kinder to our family, kinder to our communities, and reach out and make a difference and get involved. Step up, speak up. If you see that kid that's not getting the motivation that they need and you can mentor them. Because I believe you do that as well, Steve, right? As you do some mentoring?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. With all my students and players.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for your services. I really appreciate you doing and making a difference in so many people's lives. Now, I will see everyone back here August 18th, 3 p.m. We will have an afternoon tea where Shane Wilson will be coming in. He is a musician and a storyteller, so he'll be bringing a good, flavorful tea to the table. There's a lot that I'm hoping maybe a little bit of music. We don't know. We'll switch it up a little, add some little flair. But Shane Wilson will be joining me at 3 p.m. August 18th. So tune in for that show. And if you'd like to see any of the tea times, you can watch the replays on the YouTube channel, Miss Liz's Tea Time Making a Difference. Subscribe and you will be notified anytime a new tea time comes up. There are over 100 tea times on there. So if one flavor doesn't match, the next flavor will. I guarantee that one tea time will affect your life and impact your life. Reach out to these guests. These guests are making a difference. It's not about Miss Liz. It's about the guest. Remember that we're here to serve tea of others. Tea for humanity and tea of connection and tea of network. This is what this platform is for. So if you'd like to know more about me, Miss Liz, you can check out my website and check out my YouTube channel. Steve, before we wrap up, we have less than a minute. Any final words before we wrap up?
I just want to thank you for this great opportunity and that you gave me to get my message out there. And on behalf of all your other guests, we really appreciate you and all the beautiful work that you're doing.
Well, thank you so much. So I will see everybody August 18th, 3 p.m. And then I believe the next one is at the end of the month, the last Thursday of the month. I have Kelly coming in. She will be speaking on ASL, American Sign Language. So we will be doing some sign language. We might even learn how to say tea in sign language. Lots of surprises coming. So like I said, there's lots of flavors, lots of different guests. So be sure to check them out. Be sure to check out Steve. Reach out to Steve, connect with Steve, and grab a copy of his book because it will make a difference. One little kindness at a time, one purchase at a time, and one cup of tea at a time. So I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in. Thank you to the viewers and the listeners out there. Thank you for tuning in to Tea Time. We did it. We did 2 shows in one day, and it was a hit. So I want to thank each and every one of you for tuning in twice today for Tea Time with Miss Liz. And I will see you August 18th, 3 p.m.